All right, Nick, let's talk about the Los Angeles Rams. This is a team pretty squarely, I think, in the playoff hunt right now. If everything falls their way, I think they get in relatively easily. There's a couple factors, but I think they're in a pretty good place right now. And that's largely because of some of the really great drafting and smart front office moves they've done. Mainly, everyone knows it by now. Up and coming superstar Puka Nakua. This is a guy who exploded onto the scene, and likely nobody expected him to do or be the kind of player that he was, except for Les Snead and Sean McVay. This was not an accidental pickup for them, and they get into it in the article today, talking about how they had a plan, a vision, and an actual prototype of what they were looking for when they found Nakua. Let's get into the article and we can talk about it on the other side. This, of course, is from over at the LA Times of all places. Very interesting article by them this time. It says Nakua can thank Sean McVay and the West Coast area scout Vito Gonella. I probably butchered that one, but my apologies. And director of scouting strategy James Gladstone for identifying him as a must-have addition to a team coming off a horrendous 2022 Super Bowl hangover. The Rams had star Cooper Kupp and veterans Van Jefferson and Tutu Atwell on the roster, but McVay, general manager Les Snead, and the Rams personnel executives and assistants were collectively searching for a player of a certain mold. They said, "We were looking for another Robert Woods," McVay said. Woods, one of the first significant free agents signed after McVay was hired in 2017, was a linchpin for the Rams teams that made the playoffs 4 times, including 2 Super Bowls. "One of my favorite players I have ever coached," McVay said. "He brought an edge to our offense, and that was so necessary, especially coming from that receiver room," McVay said. "And I think Puka does a lot of the same." Nakua's performance has put him in the NFL Rookie of the Year conversation with Texans quarterback CJ Stroud, but records and awards are not his concern. Nakua is solely focused on helping the Rams make the playoffs. "It's been a fun one," he said, of this season, and it's not over yet. Definitely not over yet. But I really like what the Rams and, just the whole staff have said, Nick. They want a guy that can add a lot of edge. They can add that toughness, just that really go-getter attitude, like a Robert Woods type player. They had exactly a guy in mind. A guy that's a little bit bigger, who can, be more physically imposing, and he turned out to be the perfect fit. I think they absolutely nailed this pick, and we clearly see that he fits into their offense absolutely beautifully. He can carry the entire load. He is a very great, very good player. Get open, fits this Matt Stafford-led Rams team. I'm curious what your thoughts are on this one, Nick, but talk about playoffs. Really, really important game this week. You can't look past the Giants because that's how you lose sight of the playoffs. So Rams fans, let us know at the New York Giants, at MetLife. Let us know, what do you think the score of this game is in the comment section below. But Nick, what are your thoughts on this pickup of Nakua and just the grand plan the Rams had going in to get him?
Yeah, so the soccer legend, probably the greatest soccer player of all time, Pele once said, "Success is not an accident." And what we've seen with the Rams, with Snead and McVay, is the success they've had going back to 2017. It's not accidental. They go into games, they go into off seasons, they go into drafts with a plan to select players that not just fit their scheme, everybody's doing that, but fit the mold and the type of player they're looking for, both stylistically and physically. And that's exactly what they were doing here. And this is what this article highlights. Again, this is just being smarter than a lot of other football teams. The New England Patriots would do this for years, right? They kind of discovered and fell into Wes Welker as a shifty slot wide receiver. And the moment Welker left New England for Denver, what did Bill Belichick and company keep doing every draft? They kept looking for the next Wes Welker, or they looked in free agency. They were looking for Danny Amendola. They were looking for Julian Edelman, right? They were always looking for that next guy, the guy who fit the build and stylistic play of Welker, because they realized how important that was to Tom Brady and their offense. That's exactly what Sean McVay did here. He recognized the importance that Robert Woods had to his offense. He says, "Okay, we need another Woods. We need the next Robert Woods. Let's go out and evaluate and find the guy in this draft class who we think is Robert Woods, and we're going to the next Robert Woods, and we're going to bring him in to be that guy right out the get-go." And that's exactly what they've done with Nakua. Again, this is just next level thinking and operating from a head coach and general manager perspective. People forget, we heard it from the media this entire offseason. You and I talked about it before the season started. Everyone thought the Rams were tanking, right? Everyone thought this Rams were playing for Caleb Williams. Sean McVay wants Caleb Williams, right? The quarterback out of USC. That's not the case at all. This is a football team and a program and a franchise that does things smarter than 95% of other football teams, right? We talk about some teams getting lucky, right? You get a Mahomes, you get a Brady, falls into your lap. If you're Tampa, you go on a Super Bowl run, something like that, right? This is not what the Rams are. The Rams are smart. They used every game, every practice, every rep, every offseason opportunity, every draft class to look at players and evaluate not just how they fit into their offense or how they can fit in their offense, but they specifically target players that will have success in their offense. I think that's very critical. A lot of other teams are like, well, we need a run stuffer, so let's draft a nose guard in the draft and let's see what goes there. The Rams take it to the next level. They're like, okay, we need a wide receiver, but we need a certain kind of wide receiver, and let's find him in the draft. That's exactly what they did with Nakua. I know a lot of people love CJ Stroud. He's kind of taken some of the offensive rookie of the year buzz away from Nakua, but I think the Rams deserve a lot of credit, a ton of credit for what they've done in the draft, finding guys that fit their scheme, fit their style, and fit what they're looking for physically, and using those players in those roles perfectly. A lot of credit, not enough credit is being given to Les Snead and Sean McVay for how they've executed on that.
Yeah, Nick, and another young rookie added into this draft class, Steve Avila, who's done very well. He gave his thoughts on Puka Nakua. He said that, talking about guys getting all of the buzz, getting all the spotlight, he said that can definitely change your character and influence who you are. But Avila said he's happy to say he doesn't think that Puka Nakua has changed at all. He's the front face of the NFL, and that's a big thing for a rookie. But Steve Avila said he's always the same guy, always the same level of hard work. And like at the end of the article we read, he is just here to make the Rams better. He's not chasing the award. So I think they really nailed it in this draft pick. And just the fact that his teammates see the same thing that we do, I think that speaks volumes on how big time the Rams hit this one out of the park.
Well, and it's not just the thing is Nakua's done great and he's been outstanding, but it's not just him, right? You go to Kyron Williams, who was a draft pick last year. You look at Kobe Turner, right? Young player this year, third round pick. How about Byron Young, third round pick as well? I mean, this whole team is filled with young guys that the Rams carefully targeted and put it in their system to be successful. Avila is another great example of that too, right? And again, this is what Les Snead and Sean McVay aren't getting enough credit for. Everyone wants to talk about McVay's offense and Les Snead, F them draft picks. I'm just going all in. They are probably the best drafting team outside of the first two rounds. And they could be the best drafting team in the first two rounds. We just don't know because they don't have a lot of first round picks historically. But they are the best drafting team because of this, because they look at players and instead of trying to draft a player and make them fit their scheme, they look for players in the draft that will fit their team right out of the get-go. And this is exactly why they're 8-7. This is exactly why everyone in the media is now saying, the same guys that were saying the Rams were tanking before the season started are now saying no one wants to play the Los Angeles Rams, because this entire team is constructed full of guys that fit their roles perfectly. And again, not enough credit goes to Snead, not enough credit goes to McVay, but what they've done this season and what they will continue to do, I think, for the rest of their time in LA is extraordinary.